Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into India's landmark new criminal code, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. We're going to look directly at the text to really understand how it tackles things like justice, public safety, and religious harmony.
But hey, before we get into all the specifics, let's just take a step back and think about a bigger question. How do a country's laws, the actual rules that shape how we all live together, show what that country really values? You could say a legal code is kind of like a blueprint for a society. And today, we're looking at a brand new one.
All right, so here's the game plan for today's explainer. We'll kick things off with a quick look at the new code itself. Then, we'll explore three big ideas: the laws that protect the justice system, the rules that keep us safe in public, and the regulations around religious harmony. And finally, we'll tie it all together.
So, first up, what exactly is this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or BNS for short? Well, it's a total replacement of the Indian Penal Code from way back in 1860, a law from the colonial era. And we're not just talking about a few tweaks here and there. This is a massive overhaul, a fundamental restructuring of the entire criminal justice framework in the country. Okay, let's get into our first major topic, protecting truth and justice. I mean, think about it. For any court to make the right call, it has to be able to trust the information it's given. This whole section is about making sure the system itself is built on a solid, honest foundation. And right at the heart of that is the idea of false evidence. The BNS is super clear about what this means. It's not just, getting on the stand and telling a lie. It's also about actively making stuff up, like faking an entry in a book or creating a phony document, all with the specific goal of tricking a judge or a jury into believing something that just isn't true. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The punishment for lying isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. It's all about proportionality. So if your lie might lead to a fairly minor conviction, you could face up to 7 years. But if your lie is meant to get someone sentenced to death, the punishment jumps to life imprisonment. And in the most extreme case, if your lie actually causes an innocent person to be executed, you could face the death penalty yourself. The law makes the consequence for the lie directly match the potential damage of that lie. But, keeping the justice system honest isn't just about what happens inside the courtroom. The code also goes after people who undermine it from the outside by helping criminals after the fact. This is what's known as harboring an offender. And here we see that same exact logic at play again. The penalty for hiding a criminal is tied directly to how serious their crime was. If you hide someone who could get the death penalty, you could get up to 7 years. Hide someone facing a life sentence, it's up to 3. And for smaller crimes, it's just a fraction of the original sentence. The message is crystal clear. The bigger the crime you helped cover up, the bigger your own trouble is going to be.
Okay, let's shift gears now to our second big pillar, laws for public safety. This is the part of the code that really affects all of us in our everyday lives. It covers everything from how you drive your car to the safety of the food you buy.
So a huge theme you're going to see here is holding people accountable for being careless in public. And you'll notice a common penalty keeps popping up to 6 months in prison. Take driving, for example. That thing where someone is recklessly weaving through traffic, that's not just annoying. Under the BNS, it's a crime that could get you a 6-month sentence.
And it's the same idea, the same potential penalty when it comes to what we consume. If you knowingly sell food or a drink that's gone bad or is unsafe, that's also on the table.
This thread of public responsibility just keeps going, right into our collective health. If you do something careless that's likely to spread a dangerous disease, you're looking at that same punishment.
So the bottom line is, there's this whole category of crimes built around a pretty simple idea: negligence. It doesn't matter if it's mishandling fire, poison, explosives, heavy machinery, or even just not controlling a dangerous animal you own. The law says you have a duty to be careful, and if you're not, that's a crime.
The code also gets really specific when it comes to protecting more vulnerable people, especially kids. Look at the rules for selling obscene material. For a first offense, if you sell it to an adult, you could face up to 2 years. But if you sell that exact same material to someone under 18, the potential sentence goes up to 3 years. The law clearly has a higher standard of protection for minors.
All right, on to our third and final pillar. And here, we're going to take an impartial look at the very sensitive area of offenses related to religion. This part of the code is all about maintaining social peace by setting some clear boundaries around actions and speech.
So this slide gives us a really clear breakdown. The BNS names several specific crimes. For instance, damaging or defiling a place of worship can land you up to 2 years in prison. Other things like deliberately disrupting a religious service, trespassing in a cemetery, or saying something with the specific intent to hurt someone's religious feelings, those are all punishable by up to a year.
Now, one of the most important offenses in this section uses some very, very specific words. You gotta notice deliberate and malicious. This is huge. The law isn't just focused on what you did, but why you did it. Your intent has to be to outrage people by insulting their religion. That focus on malicious intent is a really critical legal detail.
And for that very specific crime we just talked about, the one that requires that deliberate and malicious intent, the potential penalty is up to 3 years. That's one of the stiffest punishments in this category, which really shows you how seriously the code takes acts that are specifically designed to stir up religious trouble.
All right, so we've looked at a whole bunch of examples, from lying in court to public safety to religious harmony. Let's kind of zoom out and pull it all together. What are the big takeaways from this new code?
Well, it seems like the BNS is really built around 3 core ideas. First, protecting the justice system itself, making sure it's a place where truth matters. Second, keeping the public safe by setting clear rules for everyday life. And third, trying to maintain social harmony by drawing lines around actions and speech that could cause religious conflict.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Every one of these laws, from traffic rules to rules about religious speech, bumps up against a classic challenge. How do you balance society's need for order with an individual's personal freedom? Finding that balance, well, that's probably the toughest job for any legal system today.